Hey everybody, this is Matteo Fagan of the ctwinereview.com. We're here at Southington Wine and Spirits with award-winning winemaker Don Crank from Willamette Vineyards, and he is here to visit. We got a wine dinner tonight over at the cottage, and we're fortunate to have him in here and to taste through some of his wines, talk to us a little bit. And before we get into the wine, I need to ask you a question. So,
sure.
Being a Pinot Noir, producer, winemaker, who gets you excited? Where does your influence come from? Where's your personal influence? What do you like to drink? What do what's your background as far as drinking Pinot Noir?
So that's a great question. Thanks, Matteo, for asking that question because it's really important. I fell in love with Pinot Noir in Burgundy, France. I traveled there when I was only 22 years old for a month-long tour of France and a bit of Europe, and I just really fell in love with Pinot Noir grape that way. I wasn't able to really study French too much in college, and so in college and during my college wine appreciation classes, I started drinking some wines from Oregon, and I think the first one that really caught my attention from Oregon was Domaine Drouhin. That was really something that I thought, wow, this is well, it's not Burgundy, this is pretty darn good Pinot Noir, and I thought, wow, what an opportunity here. So when I finally graduated from college, I thought, it's now or never. I had a friend in Portland, and I took a trip out there, lived in an attic, and worked with a gentleman by the name of Jacques Tardet from Pinot Vineyards, but he now makes wine at Torrey Moore. And that was a great person and really important early contact in my career. Michael Stevenson as well, Panther Creek. I got a chance to work for him during the 2002 crush. And to see him in action during harvest was very important to my early winemaking learning as well. So I landed at Willamette Valley Vineyards under the direction of Forrest Clapp, the head winemaker. Sort of grew to be the winemaker that I am today. But in terms of what's in my cellar, I'm kind of all over the board in terms of Oregon Pinot Noir, but one of my heroes would be Patty Green. British Vineyard Cellars, fantastic wines there. And I think maybe the first person to get the sub-appellations right in Oregon and understand how the different wine growing regions in Oregon work and to bring those to the consumer. I gotta say Ken Wright is also definitely.
That was our last video we did. Was Ken Wright.
Wright.
He wasn't here. But his wine was. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
But in Oregon, I can go to the grocery store, or go to my local bottle shop, and there's a winemaker or two doing the shopping. So it's really a lot of fun. Those winemakers that I talked about are a little bit of the older guard, and so those are my sort of influences, you might say.
Do you ever catch like any of the other winemakers like the yellowtail in their bag?
No, that's a great question. No, I can't believe you're drinking that. No, when we slum it as winemakers, the worst thing we do is drink a lot of yellow beer.
I thought you were going to say like California.
No. There's very little of that actually.
Tell us about the. I think we're off frame here.
Absolutely.
So, tell us about the terroir of your climate, of Oregon, and we mentioned earlier. You're not trying to be Burgundy. You're trying to be Oregon. I think that's great because the wine is you're not forcing something to happen, but give the people an idea of your climate and what you're dealing with as far as vintage to vintage.
Sure. Well, that's a great question. Even though we grow the famous varietals of Burgundy, our weather is a little bit different. We generally have a few more degree days or a little bit more heat summation than Burgundy does, but almost identical rainfalls. The rainfalls happen at different times in Oregon. Perhaps the biggest difference from Burgundy is our soils. By and large, our soils are very, very acidic. And there are three major types in Oregon: the highly decayed basaltic soils, Jorid series soils, Willamette soils, which is elevated seafloor, so non-alluvial sedimentary soils, and then there's a third type that's windblown loess, and so from the time of the glaciers, but the thing that they all share is that they're very unproductive soils, and so they're difficult to grow anything in. That's what makes them so good for the production of wine grapes. In Burgundy generally it's limestone, so the soils are alkaline and not acidic, and that's a major difference between Burgundy and ourselves. And so for that reason, even if we wanted to make Burgundy, we couldn't.
Yeah.
Another thing I should add is that Burgundy has a lot of different clonal material than we do. They've made and chosen grapes throughout time and memoriam to make the best Pinot Noir they can, and so you know, we only have some of those clones, a very small portion to work with in Oregon. So it's a very, very different place than Burgundy in those respects. But that's okay, because more than any other grape that I've ever dealt with, Pinot Noir really represents a sense of place. That's the most important thing to remember about Pinot Noir, in that the conditions under which it's grown make the biggest difference, perhaps more than the clonal material or any other factor. It's the place.
Now, this is your flagship Pinot Noir here. Tell us about this.
So here we are. We have the 2008 Estate Pinot Noir. Oregon law says that if you control a vineyard property completely and it's a certain distance from your winery, you may call the wine estate. So in fact, this is a 3 vineyard blend, but all of these properties we control completely, and we receive all the fruit from them. So we, in essence, have a monopoly or a monopole on those three sites. They are the Tualatin Estate site in Forest Grove, Oregon. We have the Elton site, very famous vineyard for Oregon, and that's above the Hopewell Church in Hopewell, Oregon, and then the estate site, which is right around the property in Turner, Oregon. The Turner and Elton sites have Jory and Ukiah type soils, so very highly decayed basaltic soils, so lava flows that have been rained on for millennia. And then the Tualatin Estate series soils are the windblown loses that I was talking about from the glacial area. And so all of these components come together. You get the mushroomy, earthy quality from the estate side, the almost fruit punch sort of black cherry core of this wine comes from the Elton vineyard site, one of my favorite vineyard sites. But then also the grace notes in the wine, the violet, geranium, rose petal that are kind of secondary aromatic qualities are definitely indicative of the Tualatin Estate site. So as you can see, these 3 vineyard sites come together harmoniously in this one.
You know, and I get it off the nose. It's not so over the top. It kind of really draws you in, which is nice, which is reminiscent to me of some world-class estates in France, where, not to make the comparison, which you just can't help but do, but because I guess you're talking about Pinot Noir at the end of the day, and it's but it's a little, the nose is a little bit more it draws you in more so than you're putting your nose in and you're just getting that karate chop. Like, you have to analyze a little bit, and it's a little more mellow, which is nice. It's not so, but you definitely get the blend. They get those little subtle petals, floral petal notes. Certainly the cherry is there, and you said production levels on this is about 2,000. About 2,000 cases, and you're in all 50. You're in the whole U.S.
Indeed, yeah, we distribute to all 50 states.
It's not a lot. I mean, for the whole U.S., it's not a lot for brands such as yourself.
Yeah, only a small number of cases are brought into each state every year. I should say something about the 2008 vintage, though. I mean, I've only been making wine for 10 years myself, but even the old-timers that have been making wine for 20 plus years say that the 08 vintage was the best that they've ever seen, and I concur 100%. I mean, it was, certain vintages are marked by wonderful fruit. I can think of 2003, 2006. Oftentimes the acid balance is wonderful. 2007. Perhaps oftentimes you have great tannic structure like 2003. But in 2008, all of these elements came together in a bit of a perfect storm. We just had brown seeds and brown stems. A lot of physiological ripeness in 2008. And we tried some Burgundian ideas during that harvest. We put whole clusters back into our ferments. It brings out a lot of the complex woody notes that is so famous in Burgundy. And I tried some foot pisage where you smash the fruit yourself with your feet, and trying to 100% whole cluster type ferments, but they're also macerated.
Yeah.
So whole cluster macerated is a little different than the Beaujolais Nouveau-like carbonic maceration, and so we really utilize some Burgundian ideas, some French ideas, at the same time, you know, making uniquely Oregon Pinot Noir out of it. So.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people say if you can't make good wine in 2008, you ought to sort of hang it up. And but I really got to say that the great thing about 2008 is that it showed off how great the vineyard sites were. I mean, it was much less important to have a fantastic winemaker in 2008.
Yeah.
You just had to get out of the way of the wine. Other vintages we intervened more, and other vintages we fussed with a bit. But 08 was just, even though we did some experimentation, it was all just wonderful. Every corner of the valley, there was not a bad wine. So
that's great. Well, Don, I'm gonna keep this under 15 minutes because we can keep talking for sure. Thank you so much for coming to Connecticut and visiting with us. And check out these one. This is fantastic. It's what is the alcohol on this? Because I have a feeling we're
at 13.5% alcohol here.
It's really, you know, it has a nice finish to it, and it's very smooth and elegant, and it's well made. You know. Cheers.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you for your kind words, and thanks for inviting me to your wonderful.
Okay. Great. Thanks.